Good morning and welcome to Medicare Made Simple with Medicare Myriam. Medicare Made Simple is brought to you by United Insurance Experts. Call today 561-464-CARE. That's 561-464-CARE. Now here's Medicare Myriam.
Good morning, everyone. This is your host, Miriam Leyva with United Insurance Experts. United Insurance Experts is not affiliated with or endorsed by the government or the federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Currently in Palm Beach County, we represent 10 organizations that offer 49 products. Please contact Medicare.gov to get all of your options. The purpose of this show is to educate you on Medicare and to connect you with valuable resources. So happy Saturday, everyone. Today I have a special guest, but before I introduce her and her son, I want to go over a few questions that I received this week regarding Medicare. So the first one is, can I still work and have Medicare at the same time? Yes, you can. A lot of people think that when they want to take Medicare, they become 65 years old, they have to take Social Security. No, you don't have to. You could take Medicare only. Actually, my recommendation is to always take Part A, even though you're still working and you have an employer plan. You can go ahead and take Medicare Part A the moment you become eligible. And then it's up to you if you want to take Part B, because it all depends if you have an employer plan, right? If you don't have an employer plan, then I do suggest you take Part B because, we've talked about this, that penalty is not fun if you decide to take Medicare at a later time. So again, you can still work and take Medicare. That's not an issue. My second question is, if I have employer-sponsored health insurance, when should I enroll in Medicare? Well, that all depends, right? If you're still working and you have a great plan with your employer, let's just say at 70 years old, and you feel that that employer plan is no longer beneficial for you, you can go ahead and jump on Medicare at any time because you get a special election period, right? Because you've been on that employer plan. So again, it could be the middle of the year. If it's the summertime and you're like, you know what, this employer plan is not working for me, you can go ahead and enroll in Medicare Part B at any time. It opens up a special election period for you. And typically, if you're on an employer plan, a lot of people worry, well, do I have to end it at the end of the year? No, they also give you a special enrollment period typically to come off that employer plan, right? They actually want you off, right? if you're eligible for Medicare. So the third question is, and I've been getting this a lot the past few weeks, is how do I appeal a Medicare decision if my claim is denied or if I disagree with a coverage decision? So if for any reason, let's say prescription drugs, right? Because there's a prescription denial and then you can have a medical denial. If you get a prescription denial, you get 120 days from the date you receive this notice. And this is important. You're going to get a notice in the mail and they only give you that 120 days to appeal it. That's one. But what I have found is that a lot of these denials, especially with the prescription drugs, it's because it was put in by the doctor, right? Let's just say the doctor puts in the prescription and he puts in for a larger amount, right? Because sometimes doctors don't know that a lot of these prescription drug companies have a quantity amount. So I've seen it a lot this actually past 2 weeks where I've had clients where their prescription was denied because of the quantity. It went over than what that company allowed you to receive. So again, 120 days. Also on the medical side of things, you can appeal if a procedure was denied. You can go ahead and reach Medicare at 1-800-MEDICARE to appeal that decision. If you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you're with a specific carrier, then you don't contact Medicare, you contact that specific carrier. If I am your agent, if United Insurance Experts, if one of your agents helped you, we can help you with this. We can do this appeal on your behalf. So again, if you've received a denial, please, you can go ahead and appeal it either directly with Medicare or directly with the company. So that's that. The last question for today in regards to Medicare is, should I keep my FEHB plan instead of a Medicare plan? Now, FEHB stands for Federal Employee Health Benefits. Typically, I will advise my clients to stay with their federal employee health benefits because it's typically zero. But that's not always the case, okay? So it's so important that you compare your package to what Medicare has to offer. Typically, you'll be on Medicare Part A, and then depending on your plan, some of them require you to get on Part B. And remember, Part B comes with a cost, right? And if your federal employee health benefit also comes with a cost, we have to keep that in mind, right? We have to consider that. How different is it from the Medicare plans that are out there? So again, it's always good to compare these benefits to original Medicare. If you're stuck in this situation or we're your agents, please contact us at 561-464-2273. We're here to help you. There is never, ever a charge for our services. We're here to help you. And, I actually got a call this morning. They're like, well, how much is the consultation? There is no fee for our consultation. So the way that it works, just to educate you guys, I'm an independent agent and I get paid from the carrier if you decide to enroll. That's the way it works. You're not obligated to enroll. If we help you out, then depending on the plan that you choose, then that carrier will pay us directly. Other than that, there is no charge to you. So again, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to call United Insurance Experts at 561-464-2273. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest today. I actually have two, a mother and son duo. So I have the privilege of joining me today, Gabriella Georgescu and Anthony Georgescu with Primerica. And today's topic will be strategies with money throughout our seasons of life. So good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So tell me, how did you guys get started? I love this, the mother and son duo.
Yes, very good. I actually started about 15 years ago. And I was a homeschool mom, and I was looking for a part-time opportunity that gave me the flexibility that I was looking for to make some money around my children's schedule while I was homeschooling. And being introduced to the financial industry, I was actually very curious at learning money because I watched the women in my life work very, very hard. My mother-in-law worked 2 jobs, retired with a $650 Social Security check, and my mother retired with a $900 Social Security check. So I quickly realized that working 2 jobs and working hard was not just the only way to do money, so to speak. You need financial education. So that's kind of where I was interested in the education, as well as maybe learning a trade. So, and
well, that's wonderful. And then Anthony, how did you get started? Just following mom's footsteps?
I didn't have a choice. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No.
It was actually through personal experience. Growing up, of course, learning the stuff that she taught us when we were younger, just being around the house and things like that. I used to be a bar manager, and I worked in the hospitality industry, and I was also in real estate at the time when I was looking for, something that can actually develop some of my values, my purpose. Right. And so real estate was great. Just found out there's a lot of realtors out there, right, in Florida. So I was like, let me see a different route. And my mom was, of course, looking at, why don't you get licensed and come help me, right? And so that's the main reason why I think one of the reasons I got in the industry was take over the business that mom started. And then at the same time, I also saw the purpose, which is adding value to a lot of the middle-income families that we serve, right? Because I grew up around the industry where people are working, 20, 30 years and did not get told or didn't get influenced by somebody to teach them how to save and invest. Yeah. And they retire and they wasted all their good years with energy and they didn't do the right things.
Right.
And so now they're forced to work in their later years. And then the mission to help families become debt-free and on track to having a written plan where they can sleep at night. And so that's what motivated me as well. So between the purpose and the mission, that's why, kind of led me into working full time with her in business.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. I mean, I always tell my daughters, I'm like, oh, maybe you guys are going to be Medicare agents too.
Amen.
And they're like, I don't know, I want to become a doctor.
Right.
Wants to become, as long as they do what they love, and
right.
I'll be happy for them. So thank you for sharing that story. So tell us, a little bit about your, like, the company itself. Like, is there a specific type of, are you helping every type of client? Is it just the 30-year-olds, or is it seniors?
We actually I work with over 10 different companies, so very similar to what you had mentioned. Obviously, we actually do get paid, obviously, with the companies that we work with, so our consultation is free as well. But I think the challenge, or certainly the focus would be, is financial education, right? Because, if you one of the things that I always mention is, what are the major financial challenges that we're facing? It's literally financial illiteracy. Most people are more afraid of running out of money than actually dying today, which is a pretty scary thought if you think about that. So having financial education is probably more important than any other time in history.
Yeah, and I think that's always the key, because even with Medicare, I have found that it's the lack of education that people have about the products, 100%. About what's out there, right?
100%.
And then they just say, well, I don't know it, and they just say, they just wait for the crisis to happen. That's tough, and that's what we're seeing today. Now, are there financial principles one should learn early in life?
I definitely believe. With Anthony going to private school, it was kind of interesting, because he says, Mom, how is it that you sent me to private school, good Catholic school down in Fort Lauderdale, and yet I didn't even learn the Rule of 72, right? So what I really wanted to kind of cover visually today, since we're on the radio, is kind of the seasons of financial planning. The first season would be kind of like filling up a bucket, the growth season, right? And the Rule of 72 is, how will my money grow in that bucket, right? And I teach that as, let's say, for example, if I have a certain amount of money, when will that money grow and double based on the Rule of 72? So let's say if I'm getting a 9% on a $10,000, I'm going to go ahead and take number 72, divide it into 9. It will take 8 years for my 10,000 to double to 20, all right?
Wow, okay.
However, if I'm getting a 2% savings, 72 divided into 2 is 37 years before my money grows. Okay? So can you see why? So if if you can kind of picture that growth phase of, I'm working hard for my money, and I want to go ahead and accumulate that bucket, so to speak, right? The interest rate is so important. So always getting that second opinion. If you have somebody that you're working with, get that second opinion, because the 1 or 2% difference can make a $50,000 to $100,000 difference in your retirement account.
Wow. When you put it that way, it's like, eye-opening. You're like, wait, what?
Right.
So thank you for, I definitely pictured that. Now, so I kind of wanted to see, how do you create that realistic retirement budget?
Okay, very good. Well, we typically, obviously focus on, as if I'm focusing on that season of growing my investment, you always want to take advantage of any financial institution that you might be employer matching, right? So an employer match, you want to take advantage. I always say that's free money, right? Because if I put in $2, even if they put in $1, right, that's 50%, that's a lot more that you can ever get on any IRA or any mutual fund. Does that make sense? So we always want to go ahead and take advantage of employer matching. You want to max out your Roth IRAs. So again, I'm just focused on that growth phase, and then I'd love to definitely talk about once I filled that. Once I filled up my bucket, we want to touch on that as well. Once I filled up my bucket, very important season, or that running out of money season, right? And so employer matching, Roth IRA, and then any non-retirement accounts. I want to be able to have a good emergency fund, maybe be a municipal bond fund. Typically, those would be, where, I have more of, I'm lending my money out. A lot of people are not aware of how that does that even. Wow, I don't pay taxes on my municipal bond fund. People don't know that, right? That I can grow my money in a very reasonably safe way without paying taxes on the growth. So those are areas, there are 3 different accounts, the employer match, the Roth IRA, and then the non-retirement accounts.
Wonderful. Now, lately I've been hearing a lot about inflation. How do you account for inflation?
Very, very good. Getting that right interest rate does matter. Okay, right. Because if inflation is 5%, but I'm only getting 3% of my money, I'm actually losing. Because what's happening there? I'm losing buying power.
Right.
So can you see if ever more than any other time in history, we need to be extra careful and extra educated and get that second opinion. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Yeah. One of the challenges that we're finding is, again, we're focused on that filling up the bucket, is because of the lack of financial literacy, there are financial professionals, quote unquote, that sell investment or savings account that have some type of an insurance attachment, okay? So where they're telling you that you're going to retire on an insurance kind of a policy. And I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever known anybody retire on an insurance policy?
I don't. I have never heard of it.
Exactly. So the idea is, one of the things your audience, you want to be aware of, that we want to make sure that we understand, okay, anytime if I have a savings attached with insurance in that bucket growing, and that advisor or that professional might tell me I can borrow from that money, which my savings, if you have a savings account at the local financial bank, let's say, and the bank tells you can borrow your money at 5 to 8%, would that be a question mark perhaps?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So those are things I want your audience to be aware of. There are financial professionals that sometimes mislead, okay, and sometimes because, the mighty commission is always one that a lot of people like to go for rather than, doing the right thing. So those are some of the things that I want people to be aware of. Never mix savings with insurance during the accumulation phase.
Savings with insurance. Okay. So
during that growth phase.
Life insurance.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Because I've heard of like life insurance that you can add to.
Correct.
But I guess everybody has, it all depends on their situation, right? And I'm glad you mentioned it's the savings, right?
Correct.
It's savings that you don't want to.
Correct.
And then that's where where the confusion is.
Exactly. That's where the knowledge comes in. So we believe in laying it out on the table. This is how it works, and therefore the consumer is now empowered to make their own decisions. I think that's probably what's lacking the most, because I can be taken advantage of if I really don't know what it's all about. And question mark, right? You have a car insurance declaration page that's one page. Life insurance policies that have those savings account, glorified savings account, are 50 to 100 pages.
Wow.
So question mark, what are you really signing? So those are important questions. So best any good financial professional stays away from insurance and savings. Savings, your retirement is your retirement. Your IRAs, your matching plans, and insurance is insurance. Don't mix the two together.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you for that. Now, what should someone building assets be looking out for versus someone in a retirement season?
Very good. So we kind of touched a little bit on that growth phase, for sure. So once I filled up my bucket, so I like visual pictures. I'm a visual learner.
Thank you for that.
Very
I love
good.
that.
So once I'm in that, I filled up my bucket phase, I want to go ahead and now work on making sure I protect that money. Right? And let me give you an example. Miriam, do you insure your car?
Yes.
Right? You insure your home?
Yes.
You insure your health, right?
Yes.
And how do we insure our money? Right? Now, this is a different kind of insurance, meaning I protect my money. There's a different versus the other stuff that they're trying to sell you. Now I have options where, Miriam, if you have a certain amount of money, let's say $500,000 should be a reasonable amount, okay?
Right.
So, and I don't have a strategy for that money, and I'm 82 years old, and I've run out of that money. I've run out of my bucket. but God doesn't take me home until 89. What do I do in that season? I don't want to start retirement with thinking I'm going to eat steak and end up in ramen noodles.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So those are important financial decisions that are probably the most important decisions we make in life, because it's the longest trip we're ever going to take, right? More than a 2-week vacation. It's a 20-year long vacation, right? So we want to make sure you're getting a second opinion. You know your options. One of the reasons I love what we do, I work with over 10 different companies, so we don't sell anything. We provide a strategy. We also want to focus on your taxation during that period of time, your touching on the inflation and the importance of protecting your money from inflation and market fluctuation. So those are, once we've filled up the bucket, now it's a different season that we want to make sure that we have a plan.
Right? So
we have a plan.
We've been talking about the first season, right? Because I love these seasons, is the growth, right? How do we fill that bucket? And then the second season is how do we protect that bucket?
Right.
Right?
Correct.
Wonderful. Okay, so I got that. I can't wait for the other two.
Awesome.
Okay, so how can and this is something very important. How can we verify for those that don't know where to go, or how do we know these are legit people? Like,
very good.
Where do we find this information?
Very good question. So I would love for Anthony to share a story of how his uncle recently overheard how in the world that we live in, so people, financial professionals, or people in our lives, or they call themselves financial professional, they pry on fear. So I want Anthony to share that story of how somebody was taken advantage, and I'd like to elaborate on it.
If anybody's looking at someone's licensing, right?
Yeah.
I would definitely go to brokercheck.com.
Okay.
Brokercheck.com. It's a, regulated website, and it's pretty much just like a status sheet that shows people's good, bad, kind of like a report card for any financial advisor or financial professional. So it shows their licensing. And then what I had was my uncle, I'm sitting there at his house helping him out with some things, and he had a guy working on his house, and they're in a little bit, more 55 and older kind of area, retirement place. And the gentleman that was working on his house, I was having a conversation talking about retirement. And I'm like, you're still working? He's like, well, that's fine. I like working, right? I'm like, yeah, you like working, but I'm sure you want to relax at some point. He says, well, I have to work a couple years longer now because I have to make money. My wife actually got a call, and not all these. I just don't know anybody that would reach out over the phone to talk to you about your retirement or your money.
Right.
So I would definitely be wary of anybody that gets a call saying, hey, we actually have, this stuff that's going on they might base it off political fear. Right? They might base it off of what's happening in different countries. Be careful. You don't want to see your account go to zero. So they say, come invest in this gold, or come invest in assets like silver. Right?
Right.
And then that's what this client actually unfortunately had. We end up looking at what they had, but they had wiped out a significant amount of their savings because of a phone call. Because of a phone call. And so anybody that's asking money over the phone, I'm sure if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true, and so that's what I'm saying.
It comes down to like what you mentioned. Question, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Question it, and it's okay. You don't have to make a decision right then and there.
And they give you the nice papers too. They make it sound real nice. They have the form and everything that they can wire to you or mail to you, and it would just be, of course, just getting that second opinion. If you have somebody in the family that you trust, like someone younger, I would definitely go ask them, like, hey, should I be doing something? If you don't have that person in your family, go to BrokerCheck and see like who am I talking to?
Exactly.
If you ever get a phone call,
Love
if you're
that.
if you're even willing to have that conversation with somebody, I would just be very careful. If I can't shake their hand, go to their office. It's just common stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the basics are important.
Yeah. So I love that. So even if we find them in there, I think that's great. You've verified that they actually are, I guess, licensed, or, they are brokers, or they say who they say they are. But again, always question it. It's okay to question these things. It's important.
Right.
Very good. Very good.
Your retirement.
Very good. I always say when you go to a doctor, you don't just get one opinion, right? You get a second opinion.
Yes.
So you want to treat your money the same way.
Absolutely. Now, I know we are running short here on time. We only have a couple minutes left. Can let's go through those seasons so I make sure that we get to our conclusion.
Very good. So it definitely getting the knowledge and the education as early as possible. So if your audience is listening and you have nieces, nephews, sons, daughters that you say, you know what, they need to start filling up that bucket. Yeah. I always say, let's say you put $200 away today. If you delayed by 10 years, you have to put 2.5 times to make up, because the rule is 72. I don't have enough time. Yes. I've missed one doubling period if I'm getting a 9%, right? So now instead of 200, I have to put 500 away. So starting early is very, very important. And I also wanted to point out, because we are a growing office, I am looking for people that, that in the younger generation, just like Anthony was 19, where, wow, I'd love to, we actually do sponsor for the licenses. So if you have anyone that would like to, would be open or can think of anyone. And then as we go from the growth stage, obviously for protection stage, just making sure that they get all their information, get the right opinion, get the right plan and the strategy to make sure that you know how not to run out of money.
Right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much to both of you. And if anyone wants to reach out, how can they find you?
Okay. Well, they can reach out through my website. So that would be www.Primerica, which is PRIMERICA.com/GGEORGESCU. And probably the easiest way is just give me a quick call, 954-865-9052.
Wonderful. And if anyone missed that, you're always welcome to call me at United Insurance Experts, and I'll be happy to connect you with Gabriella and Anthony. Again, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and talk to you next weekend. Bye-bye.
In the U.S., securities and advisory services are offered by PFS Investments Incorporated, 1 Primerica Parkway, Duluth, Georgia, 30099-0001. Member FINRA, www.finra.org. Primerica and PFS Investments Incorporated are affiliated companies. PFS Investments Incorporated conducts its advisory business under the name Primerica Advisors.
Thanks for listening to Medicare Made Simple with Medicare Myriam right here on Legends 100.3. Medicare Made Simple is brought to you by United Insurance Experts. For more information, call 561-464-CARE. That's 561-464-CARE. Tune in next Saturday at 9 a.m. for more Medicare Made Simple with Medicare Myriam.